guys, and welcome back to Plotting in Pyjamas. So you might have noticed it's slightly darker in here today. It's not because I'm actually filming at night. You can probably see the light coming through the blind behind me. Unfortunately, the bedroom light has gone. So I am filming in here with the light behind the camera, and it was a bit too bright with the blind open, so I've closed it for the film. So yeah, today we are going to be reviewing, I'm going to be reviewing It Should Have Been You by Andrea Mara. So this is a crime thriller. I'm really enjoying this author's work at the minute. She's possibly one of my favourite authors this year. So I will read the blurb and then get properly into it. So her simple mistake has life-threatening consequences. Susan sends her sister a gossipy text about their neighbour, but she accidentally posts it on the neighbourhood WhatsApp group instead. It's an innocent mistake that could happen to anyone, but rumours quickly spread and the backlash spirals. Soon, that one wrong message leads to murder. When a local woman is found dead, Susan listens to the news report and realises that the victim had the same address as her, but in a different part of town. Did the killer get the wrong house? Was Susan the real target? She'll find out soon enough. So yeah, it's actually a really good book. I really enjoyed it. There's several characters. You're obviously introduced to apparently I can't talk today. So you're introduced to Susan first. She's a new mum, postpartum depression, but she's just got over that. And she's living with her husband and her baby. Her sister lives next door in what used to be their house, their parents' house. And I should probably say she has two sisters. And she's the middle child. Her older sister raised the pair of them, and her younger sister and older sister are very different. So it's, yeah, they're very close though. They are very close to each other, but they're like chalk and cheese. All three of them are very different. Apparently you wouldn't be able to mistake them if you were to see, you wouldn't think that they were siblings if you were to see them in the street. So Greta is her older sister, and she kind of took over raising them after their parents passed away. I think it was their parents. I think the mum was around longer than the dad. But yeah, so she took over once it was just the three of them. And her younger sister is called Lisa, I believe. I will probably find it in a minute. Yeah, Lisa, but L-E-E-S-A. So yeah, they're quite a close-knit family. Her younger sister has two daughters. Her older sister runs a sports club after school or in holidays, because it's actually holiday time at the minute in the book. And yeah, so that's a little bit of background about the three siblings. I do think I'm gonna have to lighten this video because I can see it getting darker. Anyway, yeah, it starts because of a text. So I know I've done it. We were actually having a conversation at work about this today, accidentally texting the wrong person or the wrong chat. A few of us have done it where we're texting someone and thinking it's our partner and it's not, which has happened to me a couple of times. I think it's only 2 or 3, and luckily all 3 of them were very understanding about it. One of them being the work colleague I was talking to about this today, actually, funnily enough. But yeah, so she takes a screenshot of this message and accidentally sends it to the group chat that she took the screenshot from. And Susan starts going off about the woman who had said something in the chat. And this group chat that she'd taken the screenshot of wasn't any group chat, it was a neighbourhood chat. So these people don't know each other too well, but they're all there for like the gossip and things. But I've never actually been part of one of these group chats, but I have heard that it can turn very like, how can I say this politely? Nasty. It can be very like, people are suiting their own agenda. They can be moaning about anything and everything. So there are certain people in this chat, and the woman she'd taken the screenshot of was one of those people. But you know what they say about throwing stones in glass houses. Something is going to come back and bite you. So that's kind of what happened here. This woman was moaning because Susan had said thank you to a message when someone else already had. And this woman replied saying about, oh, well, I think it's only like, I think we only need to reply once. If one person does it, we don't need anyone else to, because then we'll have the whole group replying thank you, and some of us don't need notifications going off. Which, yeah, made her a bit defensive, understandably. So this whole thing was taken out of proportion. But then next thing you know, 3 people wind up dead. So after sending the message, Susan had been getting messages from her sisters, but she was dealing with her baby. And you see her dealing with the baby, and then you knowing from the blurb that she sent this text to the wrong group. She works it out, she goes and deletes it, but by that point people have taken screenshots. They're all moaning about it online. They're calling her out, but no one knows it's her, because at this point her name is anonymous. So some people don't actually have their name, because it's a WhatsApp group. I don't know if all of you use WhatsApp. I don't really know many people who don't at this point. But if you don't have someone's number and they're in the same WhatsApp group as you, it will either show a nickname or just the number, or both. I've had numbers but the nickname's on the right. So for her nickname's just her initials. So if you don't have her number, you'd only get her number and the initials, which it seems a bit of a far leap that people would guess it's her. But yeah, they eventually work out who it is, and her address gets posted online. So the night her address gets posted online, someone throws a brick through the window right above the baby's crib, which startles them, but it's not the end of the world. It's scary, and I really wouldn't like it if someone had done that to me in the middle of the night, especially not considering my baby was sleeping under the window. But baby was fine, house was fine, they just boarded up the window. Only thing is, the next morning they woke up and 3 people had been murdered in the night. One of whom happens to live at the same address, just in a different part of the town. So I don't know how that really works. But some places will have same road names, same streets, things like that. So because her address had been posted, it looks like someone's gone to the wrong address and murdered this woman instead of her. And that's pretty much the plot. You've got to try and work out, A, was this woman murdered instead of her? Was it a case of mistaken identity? B, who did it? And was it just because of this message that she posted? Because it was a bit violent for that, but it could be, who knows? And C, what did the other 2 people who were murdered that night have to do with it? Was it coincidence? Was it just a case of wrong place, wrong time? Do they know something? So you've got all 3 of these questions going around, and you're trying to answer them, and each one has a bunch of different, how do you say it? There are a lot of interlocking plots at this point. Throughout the story, there are a bunch of interlocking plots. You have a side plot with the woman she called out's daughter and her niece. You have a side plot with one of the victim's sisters and her husband. You have a side plot with the I shouldn't be doing that. You have a side plot with the husband of the woman she called out. You have all these side plots. You also have a side plot with her husband. And you're trying to work out what all these side plots do, how they all how they all weave together. And it's not easy because you're trying to guess at all these different things. That's actually one of the things I quite like about her work. There are so many plot twists, you never know which ones are actually relevant to the overall plot and which one's just like a red herring. Yeah, like I said, the author herself, Andrea Mara, this is her second one that I've read, maybe her third, and I'm currently actually reading another one, so you will be getting an update on her works again very soon. But yeah, so there are several things that you will notice when reading her work. Firstly, all of her characters are either from Ireland or living in Ireland. At least all three of the books I've read so far are, which is quite an interesting thing to have going through your books, because I read No One Saw a Thing. That was really good. That was an Irish family who were actually on holiday in London. So the book was based in London, but it had Irish characters. This one is based in Ireland with Irish characters, obviously. And the one I'm reading currently is based in Ireland with Irish characters. So yeah, there's a kind of theme going through all of her work. All three of the ones I've read so far are crime thrillers, which makes sense. A lot of authors stick to the same genre because that's where their audience are, their fans kind of expect it, and most people have one genre that they prefer to write in. It's also, she uses the more traditional Irish names, or at least I've noticed that in the one I'm reading, and I think she had that in the first one I read as well. These ones aren't as traditionally Irish, I don't think, but they do have a few that are. Yeah, I quite like having those little tidbits that will run through all of your work. It's like an Easter egg for fans in a way. But yeah, so her plot twists, she has so many that you never know which one's related to the plot, which one isn't. It is kind of like you're along for the ride, and I quite like that because it keeps even me on my toes. I can't always go, oh yeah, I know this, or I knew this. There was at least one plot point in there that threw me completely. I was adamant it was one person and it wasn't. Though I was kind of right about who the murderer was. A completely different motive, but I'd guessed quite early on who I thought the murderer was, and I was like, oh no, it's probably not. That's no. And then as I got towards the end and everything was wrapping up, I was like, yeah, no, I'm completely wrong here. Because the reason I thought of it was not really a motive anymore, if that makes sense. It wasn't. And then at the very end, it was, but there was another reason, a more important reason. So yeah, it was really like, I guessed it, but I didn't. And I like when that happens. I like being able to say, oh yeah, I guessed it. But I also like being surprised, which is kind of why I quite like her work. I think the first one, No One Saw a Thing, I hadn't really got it until I was 2-3 chapters from the end. I'm saying 2-3 chapters. I don't actually remember when the reveal was. But yeah, I got it like a chapter or two before the reveal. And that's very unlike me. I can usually guess by midway through the books. I would recommend this one to anyone who is interested in crime thrillers. I've seen a lot that are mistaken identity. I've read at least 2 in the past year, with this being the third. And it might seem like a bit of an overdone trope because, yeah, it's an easy thing to say. Like, oh, you were murdered because of a case of mistaken identity, someone else was staying in your house, or not you were murdered, someone else was murdered because of a case of mistaken identity, and you spend the entire book, I say you, I mean the character spends the entire book thinking that someone's coming after them. And then you've got to work out if it was actually a case of mistaken identity, if it wasn't. It's a common trope, but I think she's done it really nicely. It was different. It was quite different from the first one I read that was Mistaken Identity. That one I think was at the end of last year. It was a Lisa Douglas book. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that one, but I prefer this one over that one. If you're the person I lent that book to, it's still a good read, I promise you, but I would definitely recommend this one over that one. And yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone. It had a lot of ups and downs. The characters did grow on you. I say grow on you. I'm really not doing very well in this video. The characters were really interesting, well written, a lot of depth in most of them, and even the background characters, you were kind of guessing at what was going on with them, and they had their own stories, their own problems going on. It wasn't all just centered around this one woman and her issues, which I thought was quite interesting, because a lot of people, it'll all link back to this one case. But in this instance, while they did, they were all very separate. But everything got tied up at the end, which is nice as well, because some authors sometimes forget that they've got a plot thread, and you're at the end of the book, you're like, well, what happened with this person? How did this person feel? And yeah, I think she did a nice job at actually tying up all the loose ends, so you weren't questioning, oh, but what about this? Because that's something I really hate, when you've got a question and you're waiting for it to be answered, and then it's just never, it just isn't relevant, and that winds me up a bit. But I'm not talking about that, because this book didn't do it. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, because like I said, I don't think I've done a very good job on this video, but hopefully people will like it. And let me know if you've read this book, if you like this author. Let me know if I'm completely off the mark and you disagree, and I would be interested in hearing your thoughts. So yeah, again, I've not really met anyone else who's read her books unless I've asked them to, and even then I don't think they've got around to it yet, because their TBR piles are as big as mine. So yeah, I'd really recommend it. If you have read it, let me know your thoughts. If you're going to read it because of this view, definitely let me know your thoughts. I'd be interested to see how you felt about it. Okay, speak to you later. Bye.